Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 985A, and today's date is May 31st, 2016, and the title of the episode is One World Government Moves Forward, EU Plans, New Tax ID Numbers for Everyone. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, there's a lot of economic information coming out today. The U.S. government, the central bankers, they are doing whatever they possibly can to convince every single person in the U.S. and around the world that, hey, everything is fine. And we can see right now they're manipulating data. They're massaging a lot of the information, using propaganda to convince everyone that each sector of the economy is doing absolutely fine. But we see things are starting to slip. We see the real economic information. It's shining through all the fake and phony information they're trying to throw at us. And we know there's two different types of consumer confidence measures that is used. One is Gallup, which is the people, where they go out to the people, they survey the people, and the people are the deciding factor of, are they confident about the economy? Are they not confident about the economy? Then we have the Conference Board, which is a government-paid program, and they are the ones that put out what the consumer confidence is, and this is the one that the government uses. And this has always been high. It's always been up there, and it's always been the opposite of the Gallup consumer confidence. But strangely enough, the Conference Board consumer confidence measure, which hovered around 95 for the last 6 months, we see that it's starting to drop. It's starting to move in the same direction as Gallup. It has dropped to 92.6. Now, they thought it was going to rise to 96.1, but everything that we're seeing in the economy, it's getting harder and harder to explain what's going on. And it seems a little ridiculous with all the retail shops closing and everyone's looking around going, okay, something's wrong here. And people who are trying to sell their houses saying, okay, my house has been on the market for 8 months. What is going on here? And I lowered the price 4 times already. I put out my resume to get a job, and I'm not getting any answer. Actually, I look and I see there's no place to send my resume. And we can see right now that there's no other alternative but to say, okay, consumers are not that positive anymore. We see those saying business conditions are bad. Well, that also increased from 18.2 to 21.6. And the consumer outlook for the labor market, it's less favorable now because everyone's starting to become aware that something is not right. Now, the corporate media was out there and they're saying, listen, everything is fine. Personal spending is the most since August of 2009. And of course, when this runs through the corporate media, everyone's saying, oh, everyone's spending their money. Retail is back on track. Everything is fine. But then we look closely at the data, and what do we see? Well, this was driven by the increase in energy spending. It has increased by 3.8% month on month. And remember, this number is included in the spending statistics, so they can use this to show everyone that spending is increasing. Well, we know spending is not increasing because it shows up in retail. And I'm not talking about the government retail numbers. I'm talking about the actual retail numbers that come from the CEOs, where all of a sudden they say, yes, in our store, sales have declined. We are closing, 10, 20, 30 stores, letting go these people. That's the real number. That other retail number that the government puts out, that's manipulated, that's massaged, that's the illusion. And when we talk about retail numbers, we like to go right to the source, and that is the company. And what we've been seeing is that in each one of these stores, sales are declining. Now, of course, they're trying to convince us that Americans found around $70 billion more in disposable income, and this is why spending is surging. What? So why did they revise the number to make it look like people are spending? Well, the U.S. government decided to revise how much spending power Americans have. And as part of the report, they did the following. Estimates of wages and salaries have been revised for October through March. The revision to the fourth quarter wages and salaries reflected the incorporation of the most recently available BLS tabulation of fourth quarter wages and salaries for the quarterly census of employment and wages. The revision occurred because, according to the BEA, Americans were richer over the past 6 months. So according to the U.S. government, they're telling everyone that, yeah, people just found this money out of thin air. Which is odd, because despite the dramatic upward revision in personal income, personal spending remained unchanged. That's kind of odd, suggesting U.S. consumers were even less willing to go out and part ways with their hard-earned money. Now, there's an easy way to confirm all this, because if we see retail spending increase from CEOs of the various stores, we can say, yes, okay, this number is true. If we see retail spending decrease, we know this was completely manipulated. Now, of course, the government's going to come out with their manipulated numbers to try to convince everyone that, yes, spending is increasing. But we can see right now they are manipulating, they are massaging, they're doing whatever they possibly can to convince everyone that people are out there spending. They have a lot more income, they have a lot more money, and all of this is just about shifting decimal points, moving commas, recalculating to make everyone believe that everything is fine. We see the housing prices. They beat expectation by most in 2 years. Now, Shiller came out and looked at their 20 cities, and they're saying, yes, we see a rise of 5.43%. We only expected 5.16%. That's incredible. Actually, if you take a wider view and we look at the National Home Price Index, guess what? It dropped. So they're looking at 20 cities. If you look at the entire country, the prices are falling right now. They went from 5.32% down to 5.15%. And when you look at this, you see prices, they're not doing what everyone thinks they're doing. Actually, when I look around, I see that prices are dramatically falling. It's getting worse and worse. Now, if the housing market is so fantastic and people just gobbling up these houses and prices are rising like crazy, the government doesn't have to step in. Banks don't have to do anything because people are out there taking out mortgages because they want this home. But we don't see this. We don't see the everyday American running out to purchase these homes. And we do have proof of this because Wells Fargo reintroduced a 3% down mortgage on its own without going through the FHA. Very interesting. Now, why are they doing this? Because they're realizing the millennials, who have that huge amount of debt of student loan because the government convinced them, go to school, you'll get a great job. Well, they graduated school, they can't find that great job. They don't have the job. They don't have the funds to get the home. So the next generation is not purchasing. So they tried everything. They tried saying, okay, 3% down through FHA. They tried 0% down with some builders. Wells Fargo saying, we're just going to do it on our own, just to try to get these people who have no money, no job, living with their parents, to purchase a home. But guess what? It's not going to work. Because people do not feel confident in what they're doing. If you don't feel confident and you're drowning in debt, you're not going to make the move. It's completely impossible. And we see retail contracting. Actually, a lot of these millennials who are working part-time are losing jobs. They can't even hold on to them. I've heard people where their hours are even getting cut back. And during these summer months, this is not a hot time for retail. Now, the Dallas Fed tumbles. This is the 17th month in a row of contraction for the Dallas Fed. This is the manufacturing survey. Now, they were expecting a bounce to -8, which is still negative. But it went from -13.9 all the way down to -20.8. Does not look good. The Baltic Dry Index inched up around 6 points to 612, holding steady, which is absolutely awful. During this time of year, in past years, we were at 1,100, 1,200, 1,400. Now, out in the UK, we see Brits are being sent postal ballots with a guide that strongly suggests they should vote for Britain to remain in the European Union. Now, when they received the instructions, it seems that they had a hand and a pencil in the box of remain a member of the European Union, which seems like they're trying to suggest something. And the people out in Britain are saying, well, wait a minute. This should have never been sent out. It looks like you're trying to convince people this is the right box to check. And of course, the officials are out there saying, no, this has nothing to do with it. This will not sway the people at all. But you know what people do. They look at the instructions, they say this is the box to check without reading anything over, and they check this box. It should have been an arrow pointing to both boxes. That's it. But we know what they're up to. We know what they're trying to do. They don't want people thinking on their own. They want people to follow their instructions. And they're trying to make the choice for them. Now, something very interesting came up, and it looks like the groundwork is being laid for everyone in Europe to be given a new tax ID number. And it looks like this is in preparation for a one world government, in preparation for moving to electronic money. And under plans by Brussels, every working person in the EU is to be given a personal European taxpayer identification number. And we see the EU Parliament's Economic Affairs Committee is going to rubber stamp a plan by commissioners to create a common corporate consolidated tax base. What they're doing is they're using a national insurance number pretense to disguise the real objective. And the scheme was passed by the Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee last week. And this is another step in the federalization of Europe. And I hate to say this, but the British will have to comply with this also. Now, what we're seeing right now is covert maneuvers by the EU to take over the member states, to take over their corporate taxation powers with a common corporation tax base for Europe as a whole. One world government, does it sound familiar? Brussels right now is eliminating independence within Europe on taxes, and this enables Brussels to be handed the ability to track every EU taxpayer. And it's laying the groundwork for Europe to set up new taxes. And we can see right now, they're slowly maneuvering and pushing. This is how they do it. A little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And they tell you something else for the reasons why they're doing it. They never come out and tell you the real reasons. And everyone says, yes, this is for the better. This will be a lot better for everyone. No, it won't. It'll be a lot better for them, not for the people. Now, we talk a lot about Obamacare, and we know this is not a benefit for the people. We know people are paying huge premiums to get the same insurance they had before. Actually, the insurance they had before was a lot better. But back in September of 2013, the IRS and the Treasury Department, they issued guidance prohibiting businesses from using health reimbursement agreements, which help workers pay for their health insurance plans purchased on the individual market and other medical expenses. So companies cannot offer this anymore. The only way that businesses can offer this is if they were to integrate the health reimbursement agreements with group plans, then they can still offer the benefit. Now, the Treasury Department said that, these health reimbursement agreements, they didn't satisfy different provisions in Obamacare. So what choices do employers have today in small companies? Well, not many. One, they can either offer expensive group coverage, which many times the small company, they just can't afford them, or people are completely on their own and the employer cannot help the employee. Now, any business that violates the rule is subject to fines of $100 per day per employee, totaling $36,500 in a year. And businesses face a maximum penalty of $500,000 per year. So we can see what businesses are doing at this point. They're just letting people go off on their own and letting them pay for their own health insurance, which means more money is coming out of their pocket. So there was a point in time where companies would pay for the health insurance, and now a lot of the small companies, and I know many of them which I've spoken to, saying this is what we have to do. We can't give them health insurance. They're on their own. They go to the exchanges and they pay for their own health insurance. And we can see at this point, this is all about penalties. This is not about helping the people. This is not helping the companies, because a lot of times companies would use the health insurance, would use the health reimbursement agreements to be a little bit more competitive. But at this point, it looks like they're trying to make all companies be the same, everyone do the same thing. And if these companies don't follow this system, they're going to be penalized. And this is why we see companies saying, okay, I'm not going to have over this number of employees. I don't want them to work over this many number of hours. And we see this is not helping the workforce. This is actually hurting the workforce, which then translates into not working out for the economy, because now the employee is spending more money. The businesses are cutting hours. The businesses are reducing the number of employees. And we can see this is going to have a dangerous effect on the economy as the economy collapses. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.